Indiana basketball defeats Tennessee in a charity exhibition and looked pretty good doing it. So, how good can we be?
You are Locked On Hoosiers, your daily podcast on the Indiana Hoosiers. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Welcome in. It is the Locked On Hoosiers podcast. I'm your man, Jacob Goins. I appreciate you being here, making this your first listen every single day. We are part of the Locked On Podcast Network, which is your team every day. Today's episode of Locked On Hoosiers is brought to you by FanDuel. New customers right now can bet $5 and get $150 in bonus bets if you win. That's all at FanDuel.com, America's #1 sportsbook. Well, thank you so much for being here. Happy Monday. Hope you had a fantastic weekend. It was hard not to with what happened in Indiana athletics between Indiana football getting another big win on the main stage. We'll talk about that later today, how we didn't move in the rankings, but that's okay. Plus, Indiana basketball takes down Tennessee. How good can this team be after what was a gritty defensive win against the Vols in a charity exhibition on Sunday afternoon? Final score for Indiana, 66-62 over the Tennessee Volunteers. And man, didn't it just feel good to watch this team play actual basketball, not just get views from practice, not just hear things about practice, but actually watch them play. And you can talk to any guy, any coach, anybody in college basketball, and they'll tell you they love playing things like this, these exhibition games, because it's just nice to play against somebody else, man. Think about this. They've been playing against one another for months now. All summer long, they practiced against and worked out with each other. And look, they seem like a very tight-knit group. We'll get to that as we go. But you're just ready and itching to play against somebody that's not your own team, that just happens to wear different colors than you do. And they got to do that on Sunday afternoon. They go to Knoxville and they beat Tennessee 66-62. Now, anybody that watched this game, can we agree that that's a really good Tennessee team? They're ranked higher than us in the AP poll preseason, right? They're ranked a few spots ahead of us. And while that Tennessee team, I told you on Friday, they lost a lot, they also retained a lot, and they also gained a lot, kind of like us. I put them in a very similar position. I think they lost more talent than we did, but I think they also were able to bring in some serious talent as well. And I think they retained a lot of good guys, Kai Ziegler being one of them. I mean, man, he's a pest out there. And remember that word, because we're going to use that again momentarily. That's a really good Tennessee team. And I think that's a really, really good, almost like a litmus test, if you will, for this Indiana basketball team. Because, look, we had a lot of questions going into this game. I certainly did. I talked about it on Friday. I said, are we going to get exposed? Some of the problems that we were concerned with a year ago, are we going to see them early on this season? And if anybody can do that, it's Rick Barnes in Tennessee, because of just how well they play on the defensive side of the floor. Look at the final score. Nobody broke 70. Now, I know it's exhibition, and I know it's the first real action of the year, but man, you could just see how disciplined and how well coached that Tennessee team is. Now, they struggled mightily on the offensive side of the floor, and I give a lot of credit to Indiana for that. I think we played a really good defensive game, not just inside the paint. And that's a huge difference from a year ago is, look, we had Khalil Ware and Malik Renew a year ago. You weren't going to score in the lane easily. But on the outside of that, from 15 foot and away, people got whatever they wanted to. And then they started figuring out ways to get those guys out of the paint. And it was just a disaster with the guards with basketball in their hands. But this game on Sunday looked different defensively. Guys were active. Guys were in their grill, and they didn't give up. The communication was better. Switching was better. Closeouts were better. Still not where I want them to be, but better anyway. And you put up, or I guess you give up just 62 points. Tennessee shot just 31% from the floor, just 23% from three. They had 15 turnovers, did Tennessee, and Indiana scored 14 off of those turnovers. Like, that's what we want to see, man. That's what we want to see. Indiana out-rebounded. Or excuse me, they only had one less rebound. I was looking at the defensive rebounds, but total rebounds, not cool that we got out-rebounded, but that's okay. Second chance points were good. Bench points were abysmal. We'll get to that later. But your points in the paint, obviously, that's what Indiana does. And so we talked about Indiana being exposed, but I think Tennessee got exposed a little bit. And Indiana impressed me on Sunday. They really, really did. And it started on the defensive end of the floor. Now, I got a bunch of notes that we're going to get through as we go along today. And the ones that I consistently wrote down in my notebook as I was watching this is Myles Rice. He's the real deal. He is the real deal. He is better than advertised. Myles Rice may be the biggest blessing to Indiana basketball that we've had in quite some time. He's a leader. He's a scorer. He's just a player, man. He gets after it. Defensively, I loved watching him and Cannon Carlisle guard the basketball, something guards just couldn't do a year ago. I mean, they were getting blown by, lazy, couldn't keep up. It was bad to watch a year ago, and that put a ton of pressure on the backside guys, right, on the guys down low. But yesterday, man, Carlisle and Myles Rice, I told you to remember that word pests. That's what I wrote down. I literally wrote that down. I said Myles Rice and Cannon Carlisle are gritty and they are pests. And I say that in the best way possible. That's a compliment, man, because they are difficult and pain and the you-know-what. Nobody's going to want to play these dudes. They're gritty. They get after you. They talk. They're cocky, and they're good. And I loved watching them play. They went right at those guards of Tennessee and did not care what the name was on their chest. They knew they were better, and they decided to prove it. Now, Carlisle struggled a little bit, but Myles Rice had a 20 bomb in this game. And his first action as an Indiana Hoosier, it was refreshing to watch. I even tweeted it out on our Locked On Hoosiers X page. I said, I forgot how much I liked elite guard play. It's unbelievable to watch. And I think that can lead into and really contribute to just how good this team can be. And that's what we ponder coming up next. More breakdown of Indiana's win over Tennessee. And the question is, how good can we be? There's a long way to go, but I think yesterday was a great starting point. We'll talk about that some more coming up next on Locked On Hoosiers. Today's episode of Locked On Hoosiers is brought to you by FanDuel. Get ready to tackle the NFL action this season with FanDuel, America's #1 sports book. Right now, new customers, so if you're not signed up, this is for you. New customers can bet $5 and get $150 in bonus bets if you win. That's $5 and if you bet $5, you get $150 in bonus bets if you win that $5 bet. The FanDuel Sportsbook app gives you everything you need to place live bets on the NFL, all in just one place. So when you get a hunch in the middle of the game, you can check out the latest stats, view play-by-play, and so much more in the same page where you place your bets. Just visit FanDuel.com to join today. You'll get started with $150 in bonus bets if you win your first $5 bet. That's FanDuel.com. Never waste a hunch and make every moment more with FanDuel, an official sportsbook partner of the NFL. Welcome back into Locked On Hoosiers. Appreciate you being here, making this your first listen or your first watch every single day. Shout out to all of my audio listeners. I really do appreciate you guys finding the podcast, coming back, making this truly part of your rotation on any of your audio platforms. And so be sure that you are following us on there and subscribing if it's an option. Definitely turning on the bell, right? Those notifications. Wouldn't want you to miss a new episode, even ones that we post over the weekend, right? I had a reaction episode from Indiana football as they beat Washington. So if you missed that, be sure you go check that out. So that's for all my audio people, and for my video watchers on the YouTube side. got a few things I'm asking you to do. Like the video, that gets it out there, lets more people find it, more people enjoy it, more people react to it. Also, comment down below. What were your initial thoughts on Indiana basketball beating Tennessee in the charity exhibition game? I want to hear all your thoughts in the YouTube comments down below. And then be sure, if you are not already, subscribe to the channel. We're growing like crazy right now, man. September was a huge month. October's on pace to be the best month ever for this show. That's audio and video. So if you're not a part of that, I want you to be. And I think a lot of you are. So be sure you subscribe to the YouTube channel if you haven't already. You want to hop on this train because it's gone. I mean, we're taking off, and I want everybody to be here because we're having so much fun right now with Locked On Hoosiers. So Indiana defeats Tennessee 66-62 in a charity exhibition. And before people start yelling at me, before people start getting upset, well, Jacob, it's only an exhibition. Why are we overreacting? Why are we talking about how they could be one of the best teams in the Big Ten? There's a long season ahead. You're absolutely right. You are absolutely right. But can we all agree that last year's team would have walked into Thompson-Boling Arena Sunday afternoon and gotten embarrassed by that Tennessee team? I mean, embarrassed. We would have given up 80 and we would have scored 50. That's just a fact. That's just what would have happened. And so, yeah, I am excited by how we performed in this game because I think it gives us hope. I think it gives us a little bit of optimism walking into the 2024 and 2025 season because I think it shows that the additions we made were successful. And sure, there is a long season, and maybe they'll pan out and maybe they won't. But in a very, very, very small sample size, I was impressed by what I saw. Here's some quick stats for you. Myles Rice, newcomer, 20 points, 50% from the floor, didn't hit a three, 6 of 8 from the free throw line. We'll take that. 2 rebounds, 4 assists. Great game from Myles Rice. Malik Renew, returnee, 21 points, 8 of 12 from the floor, 4 of 5 from the free throw line. How about that three-pointer he shot too? I wrote that down in my notes. Malik Renew's shot looks smooth from the free throw line and the three-point line. I think he worked on that thing a little bit. He's also got some confidence in that thing, and he's not afraid to let it fly. Was really, really impressed by the shot of Malik Renew. Couple of other guys, you had Mackenzie Mbako with 12 points. Didn't shoot the ball great. I would love to see him be more consistent from the floor. Had just 2 rebounds, no assists. So that's something that I think he's going to have to do as well, is get more involved outside of scoring because, look, last year, we relied on him to score a lot of points, especially in the back half of the season where he started to score, right? Thankfully, you don't have to have that as much this year, and so he has to get involved in other ways. Here's the problem. Outside of Renew, who was your leading scorer, Rice with 20 and Mbako with 12, you didn't have a whole lot. You really, really didn't have a whole lot. You had Ballo with 6, Carlisle with 5, and that's Cups with 2, and that's it. That's all you had, right? You had Leo who played and didn't get any points. You had Goode who played and didn't get any points. You had Hatton who played and didn't get any points. Let me start with Ballo really quickly here. You can tell he's going to be very good. He looked a little uncomfortable yesterday. Is that a fair way to put that? I mean, he was physical. He fought for rebounds. I mean, he had 6 points. He did have 11 rebounds, though. Like, that's exactly what we want to see. You start getting more points, and a double-double is what he should be. Remember how I said last year Khalil Ware was a walking double-double? I think Ballo should be the same way. Even with this new look offense, air quotes for my audio listeners, I still think Ballo should be a 10-10 guy. I'm sorry. I just think he should be a 10-10 guy, and all he has to do is shoot the ball a slight better, and he's a 10-10 guy yesterday. So I think he's going to be fine. All right, and I think defensively, he's got to step up a little bit, got to be a little bit more physical, which is something we heard about him coming in, so I would love to see that. But, man, outside of that, you just didn't get a whole lot of help. Cannon Carlisle, you can tell, is going to be a savvy player, and I think with Carlisle, you're going to have games here and there that he goes off offensively. But I look to him as more of a glue guy, more of the gel that holds everybody together. He's going to play excellent defense. He's going to take smart shots. He's not going to force anything, Myles. And he's also just going to make the right play. And he's going to hustle. And I think that's what I really like about Cannon Carlisle is he's going to slowly get better as time goes on. We heard all offseason and really all summer that Myles Rice was the dude, the one that was taking the biggest strides and making the most noise. And I think we saw that yesterday. But I think Cannon Carlisle is just going to slowly get better and more confident. And by the end of this thing, by February and March, I think that's where you'll see Cannon Carlisle playing his best basketball. But before we talk about how good this team can be, I do have some concerns. Luke Goode and Langdon Hatton, two of your guys that you brought in to shoot the basketball, score the basketball, and be relief off the bench. They didn't do anything. 0 points combined. They had 5 total rebounds combined and 1 assist combined on 0 of 7 shooting and 0 of 3 from downtown. Now, Goody's more of your shooter. Hatton's more of your bigger guy. But they came in and just didn't do a whole lot. And they just looked lost at times, especially Luke Goode looked lost at times. And that's got to change, man. This team is really, really good. But we cannot score 66 points a game and expect to be a championship level team because I think we're talented enough to be title contenders. I do. I think we are talented enough on the floor, on the bench, from all aspects to be title contenders in the Big Ten and beyond. But we're going to have to get some help from our bench. And again, I know it's one game. I know. Don't yell at me, okay? But you have to get production from those guys. And that feeds into a lot of fans' concerns. Well, Jacob, we were hoping they could shoot the ball better. You told us they were going to be better three-point shooters, and they went 4 of 19 from downtown. Yes, that's not good. Okay, that's not good. And one of those 4 makes was from Malik Renew. That's not okay. That has to get better. And I think having more of a green light for Myles Rice, for Cannon Carlisle, who neither one were great three-point shooters coming in, if you remember. But Luke Goode's got to be able to knock those down. And I think it goes back to Mackenzie and Baco as well. He was 2 of 6. What did we start? I think we started 0 for 11 from 3. That's what I wrote down. 0 for 11 for 3 in the first half. Carlisle was the one who actually hit the 3 to start the second half. And also, you start the game with 4 straight turnovers. You just put yourself behind the chains immediately, to use a football term. So overall, Indiana did not play a great game by any means. And Tennessee would say the exact same thing about themselves. But we won the basketball game in an environment that, no, it was not completely full, but people showed up to watch this game. Hoosiers fans showed up. Tennessee fans showed up. And it really did feel like a mid-February conference game there at times in bowling. And last year's team would have lost by 30. This year's team, they won the game. They won the game. And that means something to me. And I think it should mean something to you too, because I really do believe they can be a really good basketball team. They have the talent to do it. Can they get the coaching to do it? And can they get the just cohesion to do it? If all of that comes together, folks, watch out. Watch out for Indiana basketball because they're extremely talented. And finding a way to win against that Tennessee team, who's going to be a threat in the SEC this year, I think the outlook is a lot bigger than what it was just a few weeks ago. And I can't wait for the 2024 and the 2025 season to start. Well, coming up in our final segment on Locked On Hoosiers, Indiana football dominates Washington, but they don't move in the AP poll. Why is that? We'll talk about it in our final segment coming up on Locked On Hoosiers. Today's episode of Locked On Hoosiers is brought to you by Game Time. Game Time is my go-to ticketing app. Sports, music, comedy, theater, you name it, they got it. It's the one place I go, and I'm telling you, I don't go anywhere else. Everybody's like, oh, let me see. And I was like, nope, I got it. Want to go to that concert? I got it. Let me handle it because I go to Game Time and I use their new feature called Game Time Picks, which it filters out all the fluff to show you only the incredible deals on great seats. So you don't have to waste time searching through thousands and thousands of tickets trying to find the best ones. Game Time will literally do it for you. And I just bought tickets last week to a concert coming up in February. So I'm telling you, I'm telling you the truth. I use Game Time all of the time. It's the go-to spot for any of your ticketing needs. Their all-in pricing is one of my favorite features because when you toggle this, it's going to show you your total upfront with no surprise fees at checkout, and their lowest price guarantee allows you to have a little bit of comfortability knowing you're getting the best price, or Game Time will credit you 110% of the difference. Take the guesswork out of buying tickets with Game Time Picks. Download the Game Time app, create an account, and use the code LOCKEDONCollege for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Again, create an account and redeem the code LOCKEDONCOLLEGE for $20 off. Download Game Time today. What time is it? It's game time. Final segment on Locked On Hoosiers. Thank you so much for being here and making this your first listen or your first watch every single day. And if you're looking for something else to listen to watch as a part of our Locked On Podcast Network, we say podcast network, and we mean that because we have so many things going on here at the network. You can add a couple of shows to your rotation. Locked On College Basketball with Andy and Isaac. Tell them that I sent you. They're really going to enjoy that, and you'll enjoy their show, man. They do a fantastic job. They'll be talking about this Indiana basketball team for sure in the game against Tennessee. Also, Locked On College Football with Spencer McLaughlin, and then Locked On Big Ten with Craig Sheeman. Any of the audio or video listeners and watchers, just search for those, and you'll find them on your platforms, and you'll be glad you did. I promise you that. Well, Indiana football takes down Washington over the weekend, and we're thinking, all right, cool. With some, sketchy performances ahead of us in the AP poll, surely we're going to move up, right? Wrong. We didn't move anywhere. We're stuck at 13 in the AP poll. But it's interesting because they do release all of the AP voters and how they voted, 1 through 25. Indiana had several top 10 voters. Indiana had a few top 5 votes. Indiana was as high as 3 in people's bracket, or I guess in their submissions this week for the football AP top 25. But with all the math and all the numbers, Indiana doesn't move. We're stuck at 13 in the latest AP poll. Oregon's still the number 1 team in the country. Georgia 2, Penn State 3. I'm still not sold. Ohio State 4, after they struggled with Nebraska, had to win it at the buzzer basically and run away scampering after they escaped all the big bad Nebraska Cornhuskers. Yeah, we beat them by 1 million. Miami 5, Texas 6, Tennessee 7, Notre Dame at 8, BYU 9. How about Notre Dame? How about Notre Dame with a huge blowout win over Navy? Proved everybody wrong and shut up the midshipmen, which, that's our military. I hate to do that to them. But Navy, sorry, man, you had your chance. BYU 9, Texas A&M 10, a tie at 11, Iowa State and Clemson. We can't find a way to break that tie. But why do we have 2 number 11 teams? Can we talk about how stupid that is? Indiana 13, Alabama 14, and Boise State at 15. So the only team on the top 15 that we still have left to play is Ohio State. And we know the Indiana has a few games remaining. We're 8-0, undefeated in the Big Ten. Our win over Washington meant nothing to them, I guess, which is fine. I'm still telling you, though, if you watch the reaction show from the weekend, you'll know this. I still think Washington beat somebody. I really, really do. I think Washington is still a good enough football team to either beat Penn State or Oregon. Both of them are on the road. But I think Washington might be able to do something. So keep that in mind. But Indiana's remaining schedule, right? We have Michigan State this weekend at Michigan State to start the month of November. We'll have Michigan at home back inside Memorial Stadium. I expect that to look just like it did this past weekend. Sold out, wild crowd. it was an awesome scene in Bloomington. Bye week at Ohio State. Bye week at Ohio State before you come home for the season finale against Purdue. And it's funny because I don't want to look too far ahead because we have to play a Michigan State team that's only getting better. We have to play a Michigan team that is still Michigan. And then you go to Ohio State. But it's funny because we talked preseason about the Ohio State game and I wrote it off every time. I didn't even address it. I didn't even halfway talk about this game. We chalked it up as a loss immediately. But man, nobody had any idea we were going to be 8-0. I thought we were going to be good. I told you I was impressed by Curt Cignetti and the talent we brought in, but nobody had 8-0 predicted. And if you did, you're crazy and you're lying and you're wrong. But here we are, and we're 8-0, and we're dominating people, and have proven we're not just a fluke. We are a good football team. And so Michigan State's going to be tough this weekend. We're going to have a crossover episode with Matt Sheehan of Locked On Spartans coming up later this week. And I'm curious on how he's going to describe this Michigan State team because look at what they've done. Look at what Michigan State has done. No, they haven't won a lot of games, and you can argue they should have beaten Michigan Saturday, but they can hang with folks. And this is on the road in East Lansing. Thank God they didn't win against Michigan, so they didn't build any sort of momentum off the win versus Iowa. But we still have to go on the road, a thing we have not done very often. And this will be the toughest environment we've played in up to this point, and we're going to do it with the number 13 next to our name. Are we better than some of the teams in front of us? Absolutely. Give me a handful of those teams in the AP poll right now. I think Indiana could run with Clemson, Iowa State, Texas A&M, BYU, Notre Dame. I'm not sold on Tennessee. Texas, I don't know. I'm still not sold on them, but they got a lot of talent over there. Miami, what scares me is they can put up a ton of points. They give up a ton of points, but they can put up a ton of points. Cam Ward's playing like the best quarterback in college football right now. Ohio State, yeah, after their performance Saturday against Nebraska, are you kidding me? I think everybody was able to see that there's some holes in the armor there in Columbus. Penn State, I wish we played Penn State. My goodness, I wish we had Penn State on our schedule. I can't even explain to you how bad I want to play the Nittany Lions this year and just show how not good they are right now. Georgia, no. Oregon, probably not. We're probably not to those levels just yet. But I think we could beat most of the teams, or at least run or hang with the teams in front of us and give ourselves an opportunity to win. And unfortunately, you don't get that opportunity, right? You don't get the chance to do that. All you can do is play the teams on your schedule. And that is Michigan State this weekend. That's Michigan next weekend. That's Ohio State in 3 weeks or a month. And Purdue at the end of the season. And then we go from there, whether that's a Big Ten championship, whether it's a college football playoff, or whatever the case may be. All you can do is play the teams in front of you. And I think Indiana football is playing like some of the best teams in the country. And we'll see if we get our quarterback back this week too with Curtis Rourke. Overall, though, you cannot be mad with the performance from this weekend. You can be upset about the AP poll ranking if you want to. So drop that in the YouTube comments. Where should Indiana be ranked this week in the AP poll? Tell me that in the comments down below. Be sure you like the video on YouTube and subscribe to the channel. And for all my audio listeners, be sure you're subscribed if you can, follow if you can, and have your notifications turned on. I don't want you missing any episodes, okay? Had a reaction episode over the weekend on Friday or on Saturday for Indiana football beating Washington. So go check that out on YouTube or the audio side, okay? We are back tomorrow, Hoosier fans. More football, more basketball. Crossover season is upon us. We have all that for you the rest of the week. We're back tomorrow, Hoosier fans. So until then, stay safe, and I'll talk to you later.